And this is a tape of 20 September 1967, made on an island in the sea, and it is addressed to all staff and students of Scientology organizations. We are, in organizations, making progress to the degree that they bring in good order inside the organization and in their immediate areas. Only then do we have technology effective and functioning. The only time that Scientology technology is ineffective is when it is not used or when it is altered considerably.
Did you ever read poor old George Orwell's 1984? Yes, that's wonderful. That could be the palest imagined shadow of what a world would be like under the rule of the secret use of Scientology with no remedy in existence. It's all right in this offhand age to just brush things aside and say, well, it's of no importance, really. And let's not be dramatic the way people are being about the atom bomb. Actually, the atom bomb isn't as serious as this. It's just a messed weapon. There's only one thing that could happen to Scientology, and that is to say that it would be buried. The remedy would be buried. If it ever went out of sight, this world's done. All you've got to do is invalidate it and put it out of sight and hide it. And it'll come up in the wrong place doing the wrong thing, and mankind will find itself a slave. So anybody that knows the remedy of this subject, anybody that knows these techniques is himself actually under a certain responsibility. That's to make sure that he doesn't remain a sole proprietor. That's all it takes. Just don't remain a sole proprietor. Don't ever think that a monopoly of this subject is a safe thing to have. It's not safe. It's not safe for man. It's not safe for this universe. This universe has long been looking for new ways to make slaves. Well, we've got some new ways to make slaves here. Let's see that none are made. And is not in itself an arbitrary, fascistic police force to make sure that we all think right thoughts. It's a servant of the mind, a servo mechanism of the mind. It is not a master of the mind. Scientology will decline and become useless to man on the day when it becomes the master of thinking. Don't think it won't do that. It has every capability in it of doing that. Contained in the knowable, workable portions before your eyes, there are methods of controlling human beings and thetans which have never before been dreamed of in this universe. Control mechanisms of such awesome and solid proportions that if the remedies were not so much easier to apply, one would be appalled at the dangerousness to beingness that exists in Scientology.
With all of this action being taken against us in the last 17 years, I found, after the Southern African matter, that it was vitally necessary that I isolate who it was on this planet who was attacking us. The attacks were always of the same pattern. They always followed the same newspaper routes. They always used the same type of parliamentary member. And I thought that I had better look into this very thoroughly. The organization, under the direction of Mary Sue, employed, and actually had employed earlier than I returned from Southern Africa, employed several professional intelligence agents who had long and successful professional backgrounds, and they looked into this matter for us, and the results of their activities although still in progress, have told us all that we needed to know with regard to any enemy we had on this planet. Our enemies on this planet are less than 12 men. They are members of the Bank of England and other higher financial circles. They own and control newspaper chains, and they are, oddly enough, directors in all the mental health groups in the world which have sprung up. Now, these chaps are very interesting fellows. They have fantastically corrupt backgrounds, illegitimate children, government graft, a very unsavory lot. And they apparently, sometime in the rather distant past, had determined upon a course of action. Being in control of most of the gold supplies of the planet, they entered upon a program of bringing every government to bankruptcy and under their thumb, so that no government would be able to act politically without their permission. The rest of their apparent program was to use mental health, which is to say psychiatric electric shock and prefrontal lobotomy, to remove from their path any political dissenters. They were the people behind the Siberia Bill, which almost passed the House of Representatives in the United States and did pass, if I remember rightly, the Senate, which gave the power to any governor of any state in the United States simply to pick up anyone on the street and send him to Alaska. We defeated this Siberia Bill and many other mental health quote-unquote acts of this character, but never really before knew from whom they were coming. Anyway, these fellows have gotten nearly every government in the world to owe them considerable quantities of money through various chicaneries, and they control, of course, income tax, government finance. Wilson, for instance, the current Premier of England, is totally involved with these fellows.
And what kind of a weapon is really serious? Not a weapon which destroys mud, a weapon that destroys minds. That's serious. Out of the body of knowledge which lies before you are sufficient technologies to take over, seize, and handle any government or people on the face of the earth. You aren't of an ethical level, even, that permits you to observe this. You wouldn't think in these lines. And yet, if only those principles were known, there would be people who could and would think in those lines. You can control men like you would control rabbits with those techniques. And it's all right to be very offhand and very cheerful and so on, and like the little boy whistling in the dark, says no ghosts or boogeymen exist. Well, this boogeyman does exist. And it's a very simple remedy, and that's just make sure that the remedy is passed along. That's all. Don't hoard it. Don't hold it. And if you ever do use any black Dianetics, use it on the guy who pulled Scientology out of sight and made it so it wasn't available. Because he's the boy who would be electing himself the New Order. We don't need any more new orders. All those orders, as far as I'm concerned, have been filled.